Hi CMG, my name is Paul. I made a thread a little while ago asking you to put questions that I would answer in a video. So here I am answering your questions in a video. There are a lot more questions than I expected, so that's great. What we will do though is I'll answer a few questions per video, so it doesn't end up being too long. You know, I'll try to keep the videos about 10-15 minutes or so long, or else it's going to be a whole story. All right. Cool, so I'm having a look at the thread now, and I haven't really looked at these questions before, so I'm going to just answer them on the fly. Alright, so Tommy Kelly says, what is the ultimate goal of chaos magic? Well, Tommy, the ultimate goal of chaos magic, I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer that. My hair is sticking out a little bit there. I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer that, but it depends how you think about it. It's a very ambiguous question that you're asking me. The ultimate goal of chaos magic, when it was invented or created, is it was meant to be an efficient kind of no-nonsense way of doing magic. I think that was the ultimate goal of chaos magic at the time, but it depends if you're talking about, you know, as a practice or as like a global movement. It's like a movement, the chaos magic itself. The ultimate goal of that, I have no idea. I think it would depend mostly on the practitioners. You know, I think it's a very subjective thing. Some people take a more mystical kind of path, like I have. So chaos magic has definitely led me to consider the relationship that I have with the universe and magic itself, and how that whole thing works. You know, a lot of people won't go that way, obviously, and they'll do other things. So I don't know. I hope that answers your question to some extent. Yeah, all right. Karina asks how to release or heal psychological neuroses or obsessions that prevent one from doing the work that will lead one to success. Well, this is a really complicated question, because, you know, I'm a therapist. I do hypnotherapy, and this question is basically all about therapy. There are ways of doing it. I think the first step is to kind of be aware of these blocks that you have, and, you know, start making the unconscious conscious, like Jung talks about, so that you can address it, and you are not controlled kind of unconsciously by it. So when you see the control happening, you're conscious of it, and you can start taking steps to either mitigate it or to kind of face it and deal with it. There are some magical ways of dealing with it. A good one is obviously fake it till you make it. You know, that's a very kind of central thing in magic, in chaos magic. So you know, there's different ways of doing that as well. One would be to kind of imagine yourself as somebody who didn't have these blocks, or you can work with an entity, an archetype or a god or angel or whatever you like, that represents the other side of this block that you have, and working with that kind of current or energy or whatever will kind of allow you to start dealing with that, to start changing that around. So even if you don't directly deal with the block itself, you know, having access to the other side of the block will effectively start wearing it down, and it'll reduce the impact of the block in your life. Obviously therapy, you know, I can talk about therapy for a long time, but therapy mostly comes down to reframing, to seeing things in a different way, to going back very often and you know, dealing with these blocks and seeing where they come from and why they're there and so on. Magic is a good tool for this, but the very kind of tricky problem that we have, and it affects a lot of magicians and a lot of people, is that we lack the perspective, obviously, to see how we are affected by these things, because we are, you know, affected by these things. And you know, if you experience something every day, that's what you think is the norm, and it's hard to do that. That's where access to archetypes that have a different kind of current is really useful, because it allows you to have a different kind of perspective and stuff. Yeah, I can talk about this for a long time, but I hope that's helpful and gives you something to think about or work with, at least. But yeah, therapy, hypnosis, Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. Where does the fractal end? Michael Rowland says. Well, Michael, I think there's 3 ways to answer this question. A serious answer to a perhaps flippant question, maybe. As a concept, a fractal doesn't end, because that's what it is. That's the concept of it. It's like the end of infinity, But practically, fractals that are generated on a computer end when you stop looking at them, when you stop zooming in, because they are procedurally generated, and the computer will stop drawing them when you stop zooming in. It just draws as much as you can see. And then the third answer is that the universe has a fractal nature, yes, but it ends at the Planck length, because there's nothing more that can be made, as far as we know, after that. But in a more metaphysical kind of way, I suppose, I don't know. It depends how you think, I suppose, and what you experience. From like a pantheistic kind of perspective, I suppose, it would form some kind of torus or some kind of like Ouroboros or something like that, where it just wouldn't end, where it would be the cyclic kind of fractal nature of things. I really don't know. I'm not sure what your kind of goal was with that question, but maybe I've addressed something there. Okay, let's look at another question quickly. Tommy Kelly says, is banishing overrated or even harmful if done too often? No, I don't think so. I think banishing is incredibly useful. I think it can be done, all the time, just about. I think it's really powerful. I'm using a technique a lot lately, which I'll write about in CMG, which is kind of like a minor banishing. I think it's kind of like mindfulness meditation, where I'm not talking about the full-on like banishing rituals and the whole thing. I think a very simple kind of laughter, or kind of clearing of the mind, balancing, centering, kind of rooting yourself and taking a breath, and just kind of regaining perspective, regaining focus, and getting rid of all the mind stuff that you've accumulated at the moment, and the kind of web of nonsense that we get caught up in very often. I think that's incredibly useful, and that is a kind of banishing, but it's not what you're talking about, perhaps. A more magical kind of banishing, in a more kind of traditional magical sense. You say, is it overrated or even harmful if done too often? No, I can't see it would be harmful if done too often. The only kind of negative effects I could see from it is that, one, if you get too kind of fixated on it, or too kind of caught up in it, you might not get other stuff done. I don't know. Or if you are in the middle of magic and you do banishing and stuff, you might interrupt your current working, or you might kind of weaken your servitors or constructs, perhaps, if you do that too often, if you're not careful about that kind of thing, because there are, doing magic and doing stuff like that, there is a period of time where you have to create things, when you have to kind of feed things and get them going, and if you're banishing and interrupting that process, it might be detrimental to it, maybe, if that's how you do it. I don't know, magic is such a subjective thing. It's really hard to say. I can't see that it would be harmful in any way, no. Also, depending on how you do it, I think you could do it like kind of conditionally. I know, the Sangomas here, the traditional African witch doctors here, before they start ceremonies, they always, have a kind of banishing that they do, but they invite all of the kind of good ancestors in, and all of the kind of guides and angels and whatever into the thing, and then they banish all the bad stuff. So that's how they do it. That might be a way to go for it. All right, that's 9 minutes 15 seconds. Cool. Thank you, CMG. I'll post this one up and get to your other questions soon. Keep it real.